Thanksgiving dinner turned into a battlefield when my brother slammed his fist on the table and declared that my $8 million home now belonged to him. When I refused, he grabbed a knife and screamed, "Then I'll take everything another way." My grandmother stood up, pulled out her will, and said, "Then let's see how you feel about being completely disowned." Thanksgiving in Charleston, South Carolina, had always been a big deal for our family. Every year, we gathered at my grandmother Eleanor's historic estate, a grand antebellum mansion that had been in our family for generations. This year was different. It was the first Thanksgiving since I inherited the estate after Grandma Eleanor passed away. I had spent the past year pouring my savings and energy into restoring the mansion. The house, valued at over $8 million, was more than just a property. It was a piece of our family's history. I wanted to honor that legacy. Family members arrived throughout the day, filling the house with chatter and warmth. My brother, David, showed up late, looking tense. David and I had always had a rocky relationship, but I hoped the holiday spirit would ease any tension. Dinner was set in the formal dining room, with its high ceilings and antique chandeliers. The table was adorned with fine china and silverware that had been in the family for years. The aroma of roasted turkey, stuffing, and pies filled the air. As we settled into our seats and began passing dishes around, David cleared his throat loudly. Conversations halted, and all eyes turned to him. "I have something to say," David announced, standing up and raising his glass. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it. "I've decided to move back to Charleston. And since this house has always been the heart of our family, I believe it's only right that I live here." A murmur of surprise and confusion spread around the table. I set down my fork, my appetite fading. "David," I began carefully, "this house was left to me by Grandma Eleanor. I've invested a lot into restoring it." David's eyes narrowed. "Exactly. You've spent our family's money on renovations without consulting anyone. It's time I took responsibility for our heritage." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. Grandma's will was clear. "The house is mine." David's face turned red with anger. He slammed his fist onto the table, causing the silverware to clatter. "Then I'll take everything another way," he shouted. Before anyone could react, he grabbed the carving knife from the turkey platter, the blade catching the light ominously. Gasps echoed around the room. Our mother clutched her pearls, and our father stood up, his face pale. "David, put the knife down," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice calm. He pointed the knife at me, his hand trembling. "You've always had everything handed to you. Not this time." At that moment, Aunt Margaret, Grandma Eleanor's sister, stood up from her chair. Despite her age, her presence commanded attention. She reached into her purse and pulled out a document. "If you're so concerned about Grandma's intentions," she said sharply, "then let's see how you feel about being completely disowned." David's face contorted in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "This," Aunt Margaret said, waving the document, "is a letter from Grandma Eleanor." She anticipated this might happen. She began to read aloud. "To my family, if there comes a time when my wishes are challenged, let it be known that my decision to leave the Charleston estate to your name was deliberate. Any attempt to contest this will result in the forfeiture of any inheritance by the challenger. With love, Eleanor." The room was silent except for the crackling of the fireplace. David's hand slowly lowered, the knife clattering onto his plate. He looked around, realizing the weight of his actions. Tears welled up in his eyes. I didn't know," he whispered. Aunt Margaret's expression softened. "David, this family has endured because we respect each other's boundaries and wishes. Let's not let greed tear us apart." David nodded, shame coloring his face. He turned to me, his eyes pleading. "I'm sorry. I let my emotions get the best of me." I stood up, walking over to him. "Family is more important than any house. Let's move forward together." We embraced, the tension dissolving. The rest of the family sighed in relief, and slowly, the festive atmosphere returned. That Thanksgiving, we learned that while possessions can be inherited, trust and respect must be earned and cherished. The Charleston estate remained a symbol of our family's history, but more importantly, it became a testament to our unity and resilience. After the knife dropped and the room settled, you'd think things would go back to normal. But they didn't. David stayed the night at a hotel nearby, claiming he needed space. No one argued. The next morning, he was gone before anyone woke up. No goodbye. No call. Nothing. A week passed. Then 2. I got a letter in the mail, no return address, just my name typed out on a plain envelope. Inside was a legal notice. David had filed a claim challenging Grandma's will. He was arguing that Eleanor had been mentally unfit when she named me as sole heir to the estate. He was saying I manipulated her in her final years, pressured her, isolated her from the rest of the family. Lies. All of it. I sat at the kitchen table, hands shaking, rereading the letter. My stomach twisted in a way it hadn't in years. I felt sick. That night, I called Aunt Margaret. She was silent for a long time after I read her the letter. I told her this might happen, she said eventually. She was of sound mind. I'll swear to it in court. I appreciate that, I said. But why is he doing this? He knows what she wanted. You didn't hear him on the phone the week after the funeral, she said. He said she promised him a piece of the estate. That he was her real son since you moved away and didn't visit for years. That's not true, I said quietly. I know it's not, she said. But David's been building this version of the truth in his head for a long time. My lawyer told me the fight would be ugly. That inheritance battles always are. That just because the will was clear didn't mean it would be easy. David hired a lawyer out of Atlanta, known for being aggressive. Mine was local and kind. But she warned me, David was playing hardball. He subpoenaed Grandma's doctors. Accused me of elder abuse. Brought up every text and call log he could find where she mentioned feeling tired, sad, confused. Painted it as evidence of decline. Then it got worse. Someone started calling the Historical Society, claiming I was destroying the property. That I had torn down original features and replaced them with modern garbage. A city inspector showed up unannounced. Turns out someone sent photos of the renovation, photos only someone with access to my email could have had. David had hacked into my old Gmail. He found a folder of project updates I sent to contractors. I knew it was him. No one else would care that much. I reported it, of course, but it dragged out everything even longer. Then came the biggest blow. The judge approved David's request to delay the court date. Said he had new evidence and needed time to prepare. My lawyer got a copy of his submission. It was a video. David had somehow gotten footage of Grandma, months before she passed, sitting on the porch, talking to him. In it, she said something like, I always thought you'd be the one to carry on the family home. It was an innocent comment, taken out of context. She was reminiscing. You could hear the wind, the birds. She was calm. It wasn't a legal promise. But David was framing it as proof of her intentions. I sat in that courtroom weeks later, watching the video on a grainy screen, my stomach clenched. My hands were ice. David looked at me once during the playback. His eyes weren't sad. They were cold. He wanted this. All of it. It wasn't about the house anymore. It was about beating me, ruining me. And he was willing to burn everything down to do it. What no one knew yet, what even David didn't realize, was that I had kept something. Something Grandma gave me just 2 weeks before she died. It was locked in a safe in the library, under the floorboard she always told us never to mess with. It was a video. One that had never been shown. One that changed everything. But I hadn't decided if I was going to use it yet. Because the truth in that video? It would not only end David's claim. It would end him. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what he deserved. 2 days before the next court hearing, I got another envelope in the mail. This one was hand-delivered. No stamp. No return address. Just my name, scribbled in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. It was a picture of me, taken from outside the house. My silhouette was visible through the window, standing in the upstairs hallway. I recognized the moment instantly. It was taken the night I found the letter from David's lawyer. Someone had been watching me. I checked the rest of the property. Every lock. Every camera. I had installed a full security system the year before, but somehow there were no alerts. Nothing had been triggered. I called the company. They checked the logs. Looks like the system was disabled for 4 minutes, the technician told me. At 1:42 a.m. Then rearmed remotely. I didn't disable it, I said. No, ma'am, he replied. But someone used your credentials. That night, I changed every password. Every code. I didn't sleep. The next morning, the courtroom was tense. David came in smiling. He wore a new suit. His lawyer looked confident. I sat there with Aunt Margaret beside me, holding her cane like a weapon. David's lawyer opened with the same argument, that Grandma wasn't mentally sound, that she'd been manipulated, that the video of her wishing David would take over the house was clear enough proof of intent. My lawyer stood up, unfazed. I'd like to submit a new piece of evidence, she said. I had made up my mind the night before. We rolled in a TV. It was old school, but it was what Grandma had asked for. Don't upload this anywhere, she had told me. If it's ever needed, they'll need to look me in the eye. The video played. Grandma was sitting on that same porch, the same wind blowing. But this time, her tone was different. Focused. Firm. If David ever tries to say this house belongs to him, let this be known, she said. He was never around. He only called when he needed money. The person who stayed, the person who cleaned me up when I was sick, who slept in the chair next to my bed, was not David. It was my name. That's who I trust. That's who should keep this home. There was silence. A long one. David didn't look at me this time. His lawyer sat down without a word. But it wasn't over. Not yet. That night, the house alarm went off. This time, it wasn't disabled. The siren screamed through the halls at 2:07 a.m. I raced down the stairs with a baseball bat in my hand. The front door was wide open. I called the police. They arrived in minutes. They found broken glass in the backyard. A phone was lying in the grass, screen shattered. One of the cops picked it up. Looks like someone dropped this in a hurry. It was David's. He showed up at the police station 2 hours later, claiming he had lost his phone earlier that day while jogging. Said he had nothing to do with the break-in. That he was being set up. They couldn't prove otherwise. No fingerprints. No security footage, because the camera had been turned slightly. Not disabled, just tilted toward the trees. He walked free. But something was shifting. Family members started calling me, ones who hadn't spoken up before. An uncle from Atlanta said David had tried to borrow $200,000 last year. An old friend of Grandma's emailed me a chain of messages from David asking if there were any hidden assets she forgot to list in the will. He was unraveling. But just when I thought things couldn't get messier, Aunt Margaret pulled me aside one afternoon with a file folder in her hand. I wasn't going to show you this, she said, her voice quieter than usual. But you need to see it. Inside the folder was a birth certificate. David's. And under Father, the name was blank. I looked at her, confused. Then she showed me the second document. It was a letter from Grandma to her lawyer, dated 10 years ago. If anything happens to me, it read, this truth should remain sealed unless David ever tries to destroy what's left of this family. Then let it be known David is not my biological grandson. My stomach dropped. Aunt Margaret nodded. She raised him like one. Loved him like one. But he was adopted. Her son's girlfriend had a baby, left town, and your grandma took him in. He doesn't know? I whispered. Not unless someone told him recently, she said. But now that he's taken it this far, maybe it's time. Now I had a choice. Use this. Or let it sit in that folder. Either way, David wasn't going to stop. I didn't sleep that night. I left the letter and the birth certificate out on the table. I stared at them until the sun came up. Part of me wanted to burn them. Let the past stay buried. But then I remembered the knife. The hacked email. The break-in. The photograph from outside my window. David hadn't just crossed a line, he had burned the whole damn field behind him. So I made a call. I told my lawyer we were done playing nice. I gave her the letter. The birth certificate. The emails from David's old requests for money. Everything. She didn't flinch. She just said, about time. We went back to court a week later. It was supposed to be a final hearing, mostly procedural. But when we walked in, the energy was different. The judge looked tired. The clerk looked nervous. David didn't even make eye contact. My lawyer stood up and said, "We're submitting a motion to dismiss all claims and countersue for damages related to harassment, trespassing, and fraud." David's lawyer tried to object, but she wasn't fast enough. My lawyer dropped the birth certificate on the desk. "This man," she said, pointing at David, "is not legally an heir. He was never listed in Eleanor as well as family by blood or marriage. He was taken in as a child, yes. But he was never adopted, and no documents exist showing Eleanor intended him to inherit anything." Gasps from the back of the courtroom. David stood up, eyes wide. "This is a lie," he shouted. "She told me I was her grandson." The judge banged his gavel. "Sit down, Mr. Graves." He sat. He looked pale, like all the blood had drained from his face. That wasn't the end. We played the second video. The one Grandma had recorded the same day she wrote that letter to her lawyer. In it, she explained everything. How David came to live with us. How she tried to raise him right. How he kept stealing, lying, disappearing for months at a time. How he once tried to forge her signature to sell off a piece of her land when he was 23. "I love him," she said in the video. "But I don't trust him. I never will." The courtroom was dead silent. The judge didn't take long. He dismissed David's claim entirely, ordered him to pay my legal fees, referred his email hacking and trespassing to the local prosecutor's office. I should have felt relief. Victory. Peace. But I didn't. Because 2 days later, David tried to kill himself. They found him in his car, parked near the marsh behind our family's old boat shed. Pills and whiskey. He left a note taped to the steering wheel. It just said, "I really did love her." He survived, barely. They took him to a psychiatric facility outside Columbia. I went once, weeks later. I don't know why. Maybe to yell. Maybe to forgive. He wouldn't see me. The house was mine now. Fully. Legally. Untouchably. But every room felt colder. People said I did what I had to. That I protected Grandma's legacy. That I saved the house. But sometimes I walk past the porch where she recorded that video and wonder if any of this could have gone different. If maybe I should have forgiven more. Or sooner. Then I remember the knife. The break-in. The look in his eyes. Some things can't be undone. And some people don't want saving.